Hey all, it's me Matt coming to you from the farm. Just thought I would do another video for you just to keep the momentum going and keep my presentation skills fresh. Just talking to you about my travel plans since I'm about to head overseas again, and basically just an update of what I've been doing. This year will be to Eastern Europe once again, through Southeast Asia. This year I will be mainly based in Minsk. Last year I was in Kyiv, and this year I will be in Minsk, both capitals of Ukraine and Belarus, former USSR countries, where basically lifestyle is really cheap, really nice and warm in the summer, food, apartment, $150 a week. I'm living on $200-300 a week there just for my basics, and life is easy. And in Belarus is why I'm going to Minsk, is because they have now introduced 30-day visa free for the West and all the Western countries, and so I can stay there for 30 days and then I have to leave again and go check out some other new cities around Europe, because you know I'm always looking for those cities where life is cheap and weather is good and food is cheap, everything is cheap. Pick up on a bit of a scene there, lots of culture and a whole different vibe from the way that I'm living here on the farm. So I will be probably heading to Warsaw and then on to Berlin to check that out, since it's just over the border from Belarus and quick flight from Minsk. I also like to check out Istanbul, Turkey, because you know they've had so many issues recently, economic issues, that their currency is really low, so I want to go see how cheap it is there. And since the political situation is slowly starting to stabilize a little bit there, then I get the opportunity to have a look what is going on in Turkey. And another city I've really been interested in checking out is Tbilisi in Georgia. That's on the east side of the Black Sea there, another former USSR republic, and they are doing a lot of stuff to attract foreigners to the country, including a year-long free visa, 10% tax rate, and it's pretty easy there relatively for foreigners to come in and buy property. And you know, like I've been describing all these places, apartments are really cheap, food is really cheap, lifestyle is cheap, and there's scenes going on, there's great eating. In Tbilisi apparently there's some good clubs and stuff, so I want to go check that one out. And one more place that I'm really keen to check out on my way home, heading home through Bangkok to the Philippines, to this city called Baguio, which is up in the north part of the country, up in the hills and the mountains. So it is a fairly large city of 400,000 people, but because of its altitude, the temperature stays between the late teens and the mid 20s all year. So a lot of these places you go to in Southeast Asia, where you know it's really lifestyle is really cheap, it is pretty hot. And if you're into the heat, well, that's cool. But you know, I find it drains my energy quite a lot. So I wanted to find somewhere in Southeast Asia where you could live the lifestyle without it being so hot and muggy. And I mean, there is like anywhere in Southeast Asia, there is the rainy season where it rains a lot, but you just don't get that same heat that sort of sucks the energy out of you. But also Philippines has got some extra appeal to it because most of the population knows some English. In all these other countries that I go to, I have to pretty much stay in the capital, otherwise I'm not going to be able to find other people who speak English. If I start to go to some of the smaller cities, of course it gets even cheaper, but in those cities no one speaks English, and you can find yourself in some frustrating situations because you can't communicate with anybody around, and so you can't get any information, and yeah, it's difficult. Whereas in the Philippines, you can go to a second tier city and still find plenty of people to speak English who can help you out, or so you can work through a situation in a shop or whatever, but you there you get the benefit of the second tier prices rather than in the capital. The capital of these cheap countries is still cheap, but when you go to the smaller cities, it just gets even cheaper. So in a place like Baguio, you're talking about you get a nice apartment for $100 a week, and that is the sort of lifestyle I am looking forward to, just living real cheap and not having any pressure on you. Because you know, when these videos I've been making about my minimalist diaries have been starting to reveal to me how important it is just to have less demand in your life. You do less need to fulfill things that have to be paid for and done, and activities and thoughts, and just filling your life with more and more, when there is an opportunity there to find some of these places where you can just live really cheaply and not put yourself under the same pressure, which is the same thing I'm talking about what's going on at this farm. And the same thing I've been talking about in my minimalist videos with my barn. You see how I started off just clearing out the barn of all the junk that I had in there, and then slowly I concreted it and started doing it up, beginning of sort of a conversion, building a bedroom, and then I wanted to test the bedroom to see if it was any good and if it was warm and nice, and I just started to realize this is so simple. You know, it really connected with me on the level of how simple it was to live in a barn. And that's what started all these ideas of how you can just meet your basic needs at the most basic level. And so my barn has been where I've been really focusing a lot of my energy and trying to think outside the box of how I could possibly move out of this house altogether and do up the barn to the point that I could live in it. So there's some ideas going on there about the kind of lifestyle I'm going to be conducting here on the farm, and those minimalist concepts. You see, here on the farm it's great because it's cheap and the pace of life is slow, and that is good. It's less stress, and there's less interactions, sort of stressful interactions with people, because there are less people here. But of course, all the fears that most people have about coming to live out on a farm are pretty much justified. Yeah, it is boring at times. Yeah, it is lonely. That is the part of living on a farm that is not that great. But recognizing the lack of stress in my life, because not just because I'm living cheaper, but because I don't have stressful interactions with people all the time, that is really obvious. But I am starting to think about how to deal with the pros and cons, the cost and benefit of living on a farm, and how I can, put that together with my concept about sustainability and the fact that Curve has got to keep going, it's got to keep growing, because I haven't been, my financial situation is probably not going to be able to sustain me going off on these trips for months at a time unless I get my money situation more sorted out. And so I am thinking about ideas about value, new business ideas for Curve, moving on from the whole CD DVD thing that we used to do, and what's happening here at this farm. It is not just the social thing, but I've also learned here that 2 acres is a lot. I thought 2 acres was just enough, but it is a lot. And so I am taking on board the lessons I've had. I've been here for over 2 years now, 2.5 years, and seeing the way that it works, the way that I wanted it to, and the way that the realities that you can't have everything. There is no perfect situation. So I'm still here, and I'm still doing my travels over to get a change of scene, because I can't just live on a farm. That was not the plan, to live on a farm the whole time. It's to travel around, travel the world. But now I'm seeing I've got a lot of responsibilities here, when it's a big world out there waiting to be explored. Of course, my content I also want to keep that going forward. We've got the Curb Archive project. You've seen me collect all the CDs and DVDs from the Curb era, the stuff that we reproduced, all the jobs we did for hundreds of artists and filmmakers and creative people, and then I took all the CDs and DVDs, I put them on the hard drives, and then I took them out there and I was smashing them up with a hammer and I was setting fire to them and all this kind of thing, just filming all of that to really deconstruct the whole concept, the whole media era in the era of me doing that business and sort of making it into an art experience. And that's what this whole Curb Archive project that I keep rolling on is on about. So we will have some playlists and all sorts of content that's coming from what I produced from that. Also, I do have some new music coming out with Soul Science. We decided to take a bit of a break and then get back on some labels, because giving the music away free, it wasn't connecting with people. We need the music to reach more ears. The music reaches more ears on a label than it does if we give the music away for free. So it sort of shows that it's got some value, or whatever the psychological thing going on there is, I'm not sure. But we know that with working with a label, you've got someone else there who is interested in having that music heard, and that's all we want, that's to have your music heard. So I got lots of stuff cluttering up the hard drive that from eras way gone by. It's part of my minimalist thing. I just want to clear it out. I just want to take these things to where they're going to end up eventually and just let it go. And so lots of old music, lots of old mixes I will probably be uploading to my YouTube channel here, just to keep the content moving. Content is what it's all about. You've got to be about it. You don't want to just be a consumer. You've got to be a creator. You've got to tell your story, and that's what these videos are all about. Making sure I get keep my presentation skills developing, keep my vision developing, keep moving forward, keep letting people know that this is what I'm doing, and if you want to connect, if you want to make things happen, yeah, well, you've got to do it. So thanks again for checking out my most recent update. Hopefully I will get a chance to do something while I'm away. Let you know how things are going, let you know how the ideas are moving along, and get back, do some more bass wave stuff, do some more Minimalist Diaries, and until then, thanks for checking me out, and we'll catch you next time.